Now that we've looked at the guiding principles, we're going to get a brief overview of the field layout and some definitions of the field, just so that you know what we're talking about when we refer to it. So as you can see, we've got set up here a full table, and we're going to be referring to this table pretty frequently when we get through the individual missions. But for now, we're going to stick mostly to the robot game rules. You can see that we're getting on to page 5 here. So page 5 has kind of two pieces up here on how to get started. The first section is how do you build your field. So, if you're getting your challenge set, then you want to, well, how do I build these models? Because there's no instructions in the challenge set. Those documents are online, and so those are here in step 1. Step 2 is talking about how you want to handle doing a field. So some people opt to just have their mat on the floor. Some people will build a table like you'll have at a competition so that you can get that experience. And then step 3 here talks about how to set up the field so that you're ready to go. So these first 3 are just how do I get a field ready? And then steps 4 through 6 here are all about, how do I learn the rules and do the thing. Important on this page is this layout document. And so we have all these numbers here that talk about the different models, the different missions. So you can see where the missions are located. All the green rectangles with numbers are where missions are located. But there's 2 things here we want to point out. And those are the home areas and the launch areas. So you can see here in yellow, we've got left home and right home. The 2 homes, the left home and the right home, constitute all of home. So here on the left, we have the left home, and notice that the home area does include that quarter circle. So this black rectangle to the left and this white quarter circle to the left together make up the left home. Same over here on the right. This black rectangle, which there's no mat on, is the right home. And the right home also includes this white quarter circle on the table. So when we talk about home, we're talking about both of those black rectangles and both of those quarter circles. If we're talking about the left home, it's just this here on the left. If we're talking about the right home, it's just this home here on the right. Now, when we talk about launch areas, the launch area is a subset of home. So we have here on the left, we have the left launch area. And the left launch area is only that quarter circle. So the black rectangle on the left is not part of the launch area. Only the quarter circle is. Likewise, here on the right, we have the right launch area, which is indicated by this blue outline. And just like before, the right launch area is part of right home, but the black rectangle on the right is only part of the right home. So the quarter circles constitute launch areas, and the quarter circles with the black rectangles constitute home. So one thing you'll want to be very familiar with is what is home and what is a launch area. Because some rules apply to home when the robot is in home or out of home. Some rules apply to the launch area when the robot is in the launch area, when the robot is out of the launch area. For example, when we looked at the glossary and definitions, a launch was when the robot leaves from completely inside a launch area. So if I have my robot, and we'll do my robot in, say, a purple, just to be a little different. Got purple. If I draw my robot right here, that robot is completely in the launch area. I can launch it. if I were to draw my robot right here, that robot is not completely in the launch area. I can't launch it. So when we talk about launching a robot, you have to start completely in the launch area. Now when we talk about a robot coming back, the robot has to be completely back in home. So if I'm coming back, all right, I can put my robot there. That's completely in home because the launch area is part of home. I could put my robot here. That's completely in home because the black rectangle and the quarter circle are both part of home. I could put my robot here, and that's completely in home because the black rectangle is part of home. If I put my robot here, that robot is not completely in home because part of it is on the mat. If I put my robot here, okay, that's not completely in home because it's in the black rectangle, which is home. It's in the quarter circle, which is home, but it's on the mat, which is not home. So another word you want to pay attention to is completely, because that'll come up with rules as we get to them. So again, on this section, you really want to pay attention to what is home, what is a launch area, because the rules will refer to one or the other, or maybe both. So that's an overview of how we're going to do the field setup. So that's what you're going to look at here. There's also another page later on, and we'll refer to it specifically on page. This is 24. And this tells you if you're going to do a table, how to actually set it up or how to put your mat on the table. And the big thing to know here is there will be gaps on this field. There's the left and the right gap, the home area, which here in section 3, this actually tells you how big those gaps are. So pay attention to that. But it also tells you that when you are putting the mat on the table, that the mat should slide against the bottom border wall. So when we do our field, we actually do it in terms of cardinal direction. Sometimes you'll hear top, bottom, left, right. Or if you've been this with a while, this is terminology we used to use more, was north, south, east, and west. The mat is placed straight against the bottom wall or the south wall if you're using the old terminology. And there will be a very, very, very slight gap at the top wall or the north wall. And then the left and the right wall will have the home area gap, which is this X distance of 6.75 inches or 171 millimeters. So this is how you would put the mat on the table. After the mat is on the table, you want to be careful here. This is another note that we like to point out to people. It's not possible to get this perfect every time. There will be slight differences. No matter how hard we try, there will be differences between what you're going to have at home and what you see at the competition. When you're doing your robot design, you need to, kind of stay away from designs that if it's perfect, it works. You want to build in some resiliency so you can plan for these varying conditions. So there may be bumps on the very slight bumps, some changes in light depending on what kind of lighting conditions you have. So just make sure you're aware of this rule, this designation in the rule book, because it is very, very important. On the next page, it talks about placing the models. When you do your dual lock, it's definitely a good practice to follow these steps where you start with one piece of dual lock attached to the square like they have here. Then in the second step, you attach another piece of dual lock so that the sticky side faces up. You can do that with all of the dual lock on that model, and then you just stick it down and the model will stick appropriately. And then it goes into the mission model setup. We will address the mission model setup when we get to those individual missions, and we'll talk about them kind of in place. But then the last thing in this document to talk about for this section is the robot path diagram. This is really handy because if you look on the field view, you can see these very thick black lines on the field, as well as the home areas and where the models are. If you look at the path diagram, you can see the home areas. There's one, and there's the other one. You can see those really thick black lines that the robot could follow. And you can also see where everything is placed on the field. So there's a model right here, just to the north, and there is a compass rose here, of the left home area, the left launch area. If I look on the field, that would be this model right here, because there's the left launch area. So just north of that is that model. So you can see the squares that it uses. Also, at the very tip top of the mat, you can't see it too clearly in this view, but you can see it on the printed version, is that compass rose. So you can see north, south, east, west. So if you've got maybe students who are less comfortable with the terms left and right, maybe they'll adapt better to east and west. So there's a few options here. And as another note, there is a copy of this, a full page copy in the team meeting guide. So you can print copies of this as you need and all that good stuff. So that's kind of an overview as to, when we see the table, what are we talking about? What are the areas of the table? Home, launch area, all that. And having that in mind and having the terms we saw in the glossary, we can start moving toward learning the rules of First LEGO League Challenge.